We're going to start now the 42nd Mamer in Shir Hashirim. This is Maimorim at the end, and this is actually a pasuk in Yeshaya before we had the Mamer from Ketzad Maragdim, a Gemara, but this is all in the Hoysofis in the Shir Hashirim. Kasher השמים החדשים. The pasuk says over there in Yeshaya that just like the new heavens, va'oretz hachadosha, and the new earth, asher ani oiser, that I'm going to be making, so there's going to be a new heaven, a new sky, a new earth. And the pasuk says, Ken yamed zarachem v'shimchem, also your seed, your name will be like the new sky. So what is it, the meaning of the new sky? What is the new Shamayim Chadoshim and the new Oretz? So we already have another pasuk. It says, presently, Hashamayim Kisi, the pasuk says, V'ha'oretz Hadem Ragloi. That means that nowadays, already the heavens is the throne of Hashem, and the earth is like the pedestal. So we have a Shamayim and an Oretz presently. So what does it mean that is going to be Shemaim Chadoshim? So lahobi na'efresh shebein shnei b'chines elu. So to understand what's the difference between these two levels. Ksiv vayanichehu began Eden le'ovda. So Hashem placed Adam Harishon, the first man, he placed him in the Gan Eden to work it. What does it mean? What kind of a work? What did Adam have to do in the Gan Eden? The Alter Rebbe will explain that the inherent, the natural level of light that comes through the Gan Eden is only an Or V'Ziv. La'avda means when a Yid does Torah mitzvahs, is Mekayim, the mitzvahs say, and then later on also the Lois Aseh. That way he's mamshich a much higher level in Gan Eden itself. The mitzvahs bring down, work the Gan Eden, make it into a greater and a more stronger place, and where there is the revelation of godliness. So the pasuk says, what does it mean to work? How do we work the Gan Eden? That is through the 248 mitzvahs. The hemshech is to guard it. That's guarding it through observing the 365 loisas. This is the goal of the descent of the souls into this world, Lavedes HaGan Eden, to work the Gan Eden. V'ayim HaShekosu, B'dibur HaMaschil Ali Be'er. Ki Gan Eden mitzad atzmai hu b'chinas ziv hashchina. In of itself, Gan Eden is the ray, a shine of the Shechina. And when we work it, we bring down a higher level. Hine, Ein Sof Baruch Hu, when we talk about the infinite, blessed be He, that is called Mekoir HaTanugim. He is the source of all the Tanugim. The Tanugim that we have in Gan Eden, the enjoyment which it has inherently, that is not the Ein Sof. The Ein Sof is the source of all Tanugim. As the pasuk says, Ki imcha mikor chayim. That it is with you the source of life, which is the source of life, the source of energy, the source of Tanugim. So, if we have Ein Sof, the source of Tanugim, come down in Gan Eden, then it would be too much. They cannot receive directly from the Ein Sof. Ach ma'achar shehanishomis Nivroim, Ubaligvul, since the souls are created and they are limited, Iyavsher lahem lekabel hatainug, Iyavsher lekabel hatainug mein Sof Baruch Hu atzmei. They cannot receive the tainug, the delight from the Mokoira Tanugim, from the Ein Sof by himself. They can get it only through a ray. They get it, it goes through the level of Malchus Yisbarach, which is Memale Kol Almim, which fills the world. Miloshin v'shochanti b'soicham. It comes from the language, I will dwell amongst them, which means it comes down, the Malchus is Memale, comes down, and it dwells amongst them. It comes down through a ziv. So basically, what does Gan Eden get? It gets a ziv. It gets through the level of Malchus. We want to be mamshich into Gan Eden, a higher level than the level of Malchus. We want to bring down the level of Atzilus itself, that should come down in Gan Eden. That's the law of that's the work that Ramach Mitzvah says accomplishes. The souls that descended below into this world, through their service to subjugate the body that comes from the skin of the serpent. The body, the guf, is considered from the Nochash HaKadmoni, from the skin, from the klippus, as it's called in the Zohar, that's called a Mishcha Dechivya, skin of the snake. So when you work to be mevatel, to nullify that the interference from the guf, that's how they add additional light in the Gan Eden from the Atzmus, from the Ein Sof, not anymore through Malchus. This is the avodah of the. We have now a very long parenthesis over here, and this is clearly, from the Tzemach Tzedek. And he explains basically this idea of bringing down the higher level, the Ein Sof, into the level of Gan Eden. But we can explain this idea, as the Pasuk says, Bosi legani achoisi kalo. This is the bringing down when we say that we're mamshich, the la'avda, from Atzmus into the Gan Eden. That is what means Bosi. Hashem Atzmus came, legani, that's to the Gan Eden, achoisi kalos, that means it's coming down there. Pirish Barayim Mehemne Parshas Vayikra, Dav Gimel Soifa Mit Beis. Where is this legani? He says legani Ihi Malchus Adnai. Gani means Malchus Adnai. What does that mean, Malchus Adnai? Pirish Bezoyer Horakia. He explains in Zoyer Horakia, Hainu Malchus Sheyordo Libriya Chulu. That's the level of Malchus that descended to Bria. That is the level of Adnai. Malchus Adnai, meaning Malchus when it comes down into Bria. So in that case, Pirush Bosi Legani, what does it mean? I've come down to the Gani. That over there is extended additional light from the essence, the blessed. Hashem's blessed essence. Okay, Inyan Haniskar B'dibur Hamaschil Oisri Lagefen B'inyan, over there explains. It says Mekadeshe Shemecha, that We make your name holy. What does it mean we make your name holy? שישראל ממשיכים מבחינת אתו קודש לבחינת בשמך קודש. They bring from the level of ato kodesh, level of ato, level of atzmos, to the level of shimcha, to the level of Gan Eden. Ad, until it says, v'zehu yofe sho'achas b'tshuva ma'asim tovim ba'olam hazeh mikol chaya ha'olam haba. That there's 1 hour of tshuva ma'asim tovim in this world better than all olam haba. Why? Because we bring down through the ma'asim tovim in olam hazeh much more than we have in the olam haba mitzad atzma. V'zel is showing ksav Yad Admur Nishmos Eiden b'Torah Pashas Chayesora. This is the exact language of the handwriting of the Alter Rebbe in Torah and Pashas Chayesora. It says like this: V'hinei Gan Eden ha'elyon hu mibriya. Gan Eden ha'elyon, the upper level of Gan Eden, is from the world of Bria. V'asi shapir hoditnan. So that now we understand well. The Mishnah says, why? Why we understand it now? Mipnei shehazivu zo v'nukva hu ba'atzilus. Because where does the mating of zo and nukva, that's the malchus and the zo, this eir ampin, is in atzilus. The mitzvahs, the shoachas b'tshuva ma'asim tovim, the mitzvahs, mamshichos mayim dechurim de atzilus. They bring down the masculine waters, the hamshochos rusu de leila of atzilus. The shorsham, and where is the root of zo? Is memoiches timo arich ampin ad kan l'shona. It comes from the memoiches timo of arich ampin ad kan l'shona. So again, we see what happens through the mitzvahs, through the sha'achas b'tshuvas, what happens through the li'ovda. V'imkein pirush bosi legani. So what does it mean, bosi legani? So yichud zov v'nukva, that is the union of zov v'nukva. The union of zov v'nukva, that comes down, shu inyan, which comes down, the idea is to bringing down from the hidden level of Moyach, Hanikra Eiden Ha'elyon. That is called Eiden Ha'elyon, the level of Moichas Timo, what your mamshich, that's Eiden Ha'elyon, which is Stimo de Chol Stimin. It's hidden of all the hiddens, Bidra Zutra Dafrish Sadik Homadala, which is higher and higher than Gan Eden itself. That's why we say that's Bosi Legani. That's the Amshocha that you bring down Le'ovda through the Jofe Shoachas, B'tshuva Ma'asim Tovim, through the Aveda Mitzvahs, bringing down that level of Eden Ha'elyon, Stimim the Chol Stimim, the Inyan from Moichas Timod, Arech Ampin, which is in Zovenuk, which is the Yichud of Zovenukva in Atzilus, which is higher than the level of Ziv, which comes from Malchus Atzilus by itself. So, Gam Kinyan Niska Bezer, Chelik Beis Boy, Daf Lamed Vavum Beis. So this is also the same idea. But there it says, Beshaito the Kuchabrichu is Chazi al Ginso. At the time that Kuchabrichu, Hashem, blessed is He, the Holy One, appears on the garden. That means when Bosi Legani, when it comes down. Over there in that Mamer, he discusses what it says in the future to come. It says, Umayon mi beis Hashem yetze, that the well will come out from Beis Hashem. So he says, what is that? Over there it talks to the Mamer, that is extension that comes from the level of Chokhmah Ilah, Hanikra Mayon, That is what's called a well. Shalemayla mimadregas v'nohor yoytze me'eden. That is higher than we say a nohor comes out from Eden lahashkes sagon shu b'chinas bina. That is the level of bina. Normally, the level when it says v'nohor yoytze me'eden, a river comes from Eden, is bina. That's the level of bina. But la'ashid lavei umayin will come Beis Hashem. That mayin is chokhmah. Which is higher than the madregas of Nor Yotzim Eden, which is Bina. So basically, this is all telling us how the Le'avda in Gan Eden, how we are improving and we're bringing down more light from all these and Yafashu Achaz B'Tshuva Ma'asim Tov. V'hinei Knesses Yisrael Nikra Mayon Ganim, called like a well for gardens, which means they are the well that make the garden beautiful. Hainu. Why is it called Mayon Ganim? Hainu Shal Yidei Ha'avodah, through the work. Mamshich began Eden mibchinas ma'ayin chulu. He brings down in Gan Eden from the level of Mayin. V'hu milmaylo min ha'ishtalshlus, that is higher than the shtalshlus. Oy ki inyan ha'hamshocha mibchinas bina, or like the idea when it comes from the level of Bina, Shalemayla Mibchinas Tevuna Hanikra Olmo de Osi. There is Amshocha from Bina, that's Olmo de Osi, which is in the future. Tevuna, that's the level which is now. He's not elaborating, he brings it down over here. But then you have the higher Madrege. The Mayin Ganim can also refer to Eden Ishtalshalus, level of Mayin, the level of Chochman, or Bina, but not Tvuna, but Bina, which is also higher level. Hine, the Medrash Rabbe Bereshi Seif Parsha Tazayin Pirush. So over there he explains La'avdo l'shomra elu hakarbonis. How do you work and guard the garden through karbonis? Here we're talking about generally mitzvahs. Ramach mitzvahs asay. That's what we were talking about the Mamer. In the Medrash Rabbah, he says specifically it's the karbonis. Why karbonis? Because shenemar, the pasuk says, Tavdun as Elokim, Uksiv Tishmru Lahakriv Li B'Moyadeh. So we know here it says La'avda. So by Korbanos it says Tavdun es Elokim. So that's the La'avda. Then it also says Tishmru Lahakriv Li B'Moyadeh. So that's the level of La'avdo L'Shamra. You have two things. You have La'avdo L'Shamra. The pasuk of Tavdun es Elokim, the Eibshter says to Moshe, Ba'itzichos Ha'om Mitzrayim, Tavdun es Elokim, that you will serve Hashem, and I guess that is also through the meaning of the Korbanos that was there by Matan Torah. I think it has a special. I'm trying to think what's the special connection of Tavdun with the level of Korbanos, but that is a reference to the Korbanos. Uksiv Tishmru L'Hakriv Li B'Moyadeh. That's for sure the Korbanos you have to guard. So La'avdo L'Shamra. So what's the connection? Korbanos specifically to the Le'avda. So he explains it. The idea is Kosov, Bezoyer Chelik Gimel, Pinchas Dafadish Beis Omid Beis. It says, Bosi Legani, I come to the garden, begin the whole Korbonim, the Alma, Katsolkin, all of these Korbonis of the world, when they go up, Kulu, Solkin, Lagoi, Ginsa, the Eden, they all go up to inside of the Gan Eden, Ginsa the Eden, Rozo the Knesset Yisrael, which is the secret Knesset Yisrael. That's where they go first. The impact. The Migdash Melech Shom B'Shem Rabbi Chaim Vital, and the Migdash Melech there in the name of Rabbi Chaim Vital. Shenichnosim b'Yisoid the Nukva l'Shoresh Man Atkan l'Shoyne. They enter into the level of Yisoid of the feminine, and in the Yisoid of the feminine there is the root, which is the root of the Mayim Nukvin, the root of the Mayim Nukvin Atkan l'Shoyne. When you go to the level of Yisoid of the Nukva, and then you bring the Mayim Dechurim, you bring down the masculine waters, the Milmai Lamata, Shizehu Inyan Bosi Lagani. That's the idea of Bosi Lagani, bringing down from the Mayim Dechurim. Shizehu Inyan V'Nechehu Began Eden La'avdol L'Shamra, the Hainu. And that's what we say, Beganed Love L'Shamra. He explains the Medrash Rabbah, Sha'idei Avodas HaKarbonis, Mamshir B'chinas Bosi Lagani. Through the Avodah of the Karbonis, you bring down, you extend the level of Bosi Lagani. Because based on the Zohar and based on the Migdash Melech, that what you accomplish, you go to the Yisoid Nukva and you bring down the Mayim Dechurim, and that's the Bosi Lagani. Zohar Chelik Aleph, Miketz Davkuf Tzadik Tesom Beitz Isa. So over there we find that Posach ve'Omar, he began and he said that when the Posach says Vayimnechehu Began Eden La'avdol L'Shamra, he placed him in the Gan Eden La'avdol L'Shamra. V'ukmuo berozo de Kurbanin, and you set it up by, this is the secret. The Avodah La'avdol L'Shamra is the secret of the Karbonis. Ihu Talmud Chochem, and I think Talmud Chochem, meaning who does the work of the. How do you serve the Eibishter? So you go to two things. So you have La'avda the Malka Ilah. To serve, that's talking about the upper level of Malchus. Ulishamra, and then we have Ulishamra, the Malka Tato. That's the level, the lower level of Malchus, which basically is Alma Ilah, Alma Tato, the upper world and the lower world. And La'avda, this is all quoting the Zohar. La'avda Berazo de Zocher. When you serve it, that's the secret Zocher. In the Seres HaDibros, it says Zocher es Yom HaShabbos in Shemais, the first one, and then in Dvarim it says Ulishomra Shomer es Yom HaShabbos. That's Berazo de Shomer. Cool. That's the Zohar. Opirish b'Migdash Melech b'Zel L'Shomer. So the Migdash Melech explains Sha'idei mitzvahs asay, that when you do a mitzvahs asay, she'oisa odom misakin ze'er, he fixes a little bit, umamshich loy moichin me'ema, he brings down from the level of the moichin of bina, v'zohu la'avda, and that's la'avda. La'avda brings down the level of bina. V'ayidei l'shamra, and when you do the l'shamra, shehu shomer milaver al loisaseh, when you keep and you don't do the loisaseh, mesakin hamalchus that you fix the malchus and you guard it from the chitzonis. Adkan dvorov. So I guess when he explains what the Zohar says, that you have the different levels, it's the level of bina, moichin de bina, and l'shamra, protect mechitzon. V'zeu ki inyan masikosav makamacha b'diver ha'maschil matoivu. He talks about the inyan gimul tshuvas. There's 3 levels of tshuva. 3 levels of tshuva. Shal yidei surmeira shaloi liis abenesechem mavdilim. By staying away from Ra, so that there's no sins that interfere between a Yid and the Eibishter, mamshich b'chinas memalukul almin. Then he brings down the level of memalukul almin, v'zeu tikkun malchus, and that is the correction of malchus. V'yidei v'asei toiv, second level of asei toiv, that's mamshich b'chinas sevukul almin. V'zeu inyan le'avdol l'shamra. So that's the idea of le'avdol l'shamra, which is l'shamra is tikkun hamalchus. That's the loisase protection, and asei toiv is to be mamshich l'shevuk lam, and that's the idea of le'avdol l'shamra. V'digduk loshin ve'enecheyu began Eden. Why it says he placed him in Gan Eden. It says v'nohor yoytze me'Eden ba'ayil liginso. The river comes out from Eden, comes from Bina, enters the garden. That's the Gan Eden. It waters him, the water of above, and it does him a pleasantness. What does that mean? So the Ramaz explains, that is the idea of sweetening the stringency with kindness. So the word vayanichehu, he placed mistach as naicha, as a pleasantness. Nichoyach. From that level of naicha, nimshach gamkein laodam, that comes to the, also extends to the person. So vayanichehu, the nichoyach was vayanichehu. This is the meaning of vayanichehu. The Chaim Pirish b'Medrash de Le'il, also the previous Medrash that brought down that it says v'yanicheyu kimodat amrod v'yonach b'yom hashvi. He rested on the 7th day. V'ayim b'zer chelik aleph till this kuf mem aleph and beis al posik v'nochacho Hashem oso nechoyach tomid v'hizbiya b'tzachtzachos nafshecho chulu. And this means v'yanicheyu began Eden. He gave him the nechoyach, the nochacho, the pleasantness in Gan Eden. V'yoyser yesh loymar, can say even more. Ki hinei b'korbonos ksiv l'reach nechoyach la'Hashem. By korbonos it's written that you bring the korbanos there a pleasant aroma to Hashem. Asher pirush nichoyach. What is the meaning of nichoyach? Pleasant loshen nachas ruach, v'gam loshen chus darga. Both. It's a pleasantness of spirit, nichoyach, l'reach nichoyach, and also a reach nichoyach that descends chus darga, that it comes down. V'amshocha, we say l'reich nichoyach lahavaya. And that is that it comes from Atzmus lehavaya. It's a reach nichoyach, a descending reach reach that comes above lehavaya. V'zeu nichoyach lehavaya, and this means a pleasantness, a hamshocha that comes down to the level of havaya. V'hainu inyan mekache shmecha, and this is what it means. We say mekache shmecha. They are mekadesh. They make the name Shem Mamshichim mebchinas Ato Kodesh lebchinas Shimcha. They draw it down from the level of Ato Kodesh to the level of Shimcha. So that from the level of Atzmus, bringing down to Havaya, which is the Shem Havaya. They bring down from Nichoyach, from Ato Kodesh to the level of Shimcha. V'zeu inyan la'avdol l'shamra. And that's the same idea of la'avdol l'shamra. And when you bring down that level into the Gan Eden, that comes down, that filters down to the person, to the Nivra. That means he placed him, meaning the person giving him the Nechoyach. To bring down the Nechoyach Lavaya, to bring it down to the person. Or further, this subject, Love the L'Shomra, is in Raya Mehemna, Parshas Eschanon, Daf Reish Samach Gimel Omed Beis, or Bezer Chelik Beis in Vayakel, Daf Reish Yud Omed Beis, Gabedo Eden Ilo Chulu. But there it says, this is the supreme Eden, the Ihu Yoda L'Nekuda Tator Hanikro Ginso, that knows, Eden Law, that knows that lower point, which is called the garden, Shehu Hamshochas Ma'oir Abba Malchus Hanikra Gan Eden. That means that Nekuda Tator, that's Malchus, coming down from the light of Chochmah into Gan Eden. In addition, V'gam Abba Mekabel Ma'arich V'atik, and Abba, the Chochmah, receives from Arich and Atik, from Keser, Ad Ein Sof, until the Ein Sof, K'meshe Kosu, the Migdash Melech Shom, B'idre Zutra Daf, Reish Tzadik, Ahmed Aleph. Nimtzo, so it turns out, where does the Hamshocha come down from the Avdol L'Shomra? Hamshocha Zui Matzmusi is born from the Atzmut, because as we say in the Zohar, that this is the level of Chochmah, but also Chochmah Malchus, but also as Chochmah receives some Arich and Atik until the Ein Sof comes out, that what are you Mamshich Lov the L'Shamra? From the level of Atzmus. V'ayim Hashekosuv Me'inyan Pirush Moichin Al Posik V'Netzach Zu Yerushalayim. And the Posik Netzach Zu Yerushalayim, the Shom Nizbayer, over there it's explained, Shaham Shocha Zu Bo Milamayla Miseder Hishtalshlus. That this Hamshocha comes from above the order of the Hishtalshlus. And he says it comes from Moiches Timo Viradlo. Comes from the hidden Moyach and the Resha Delo Yisyada. Umizeh Yuvon Pirush Inyan La'ovdo. Is that what it means? La'ovdo, Shenizbayer Le'il, Shuam Shochas Moichin de Zoh. That is bringing down the Moichin of Zoh into the Gan Eden. But now we see that the Moichin, when we talk about Moichin, we're talking about Shoirish the Moichas Timor Adlo. Ay Mashakosu B'dibra Maschel B'midbar Sinai. Gabei Ma'ayin Bosu Launa Tahel Chulu. V'ayin Oid B'zer Chelik Beis Truma Dav Kuf Mem Beis. So over there it says the high Neshama Solko Gogoy Neviyo Da'atiko Da'atikin Stime the whole Stimen. That the soul goes up to the flow of Atik, or the hidden of all hidden. So basically, it's another source that tells you what happens through the li'ovda, through the mitzvahs that a yid does, what you bring down into Gan Eden. This is all the li'ovda. How are souls who are created, how could they receive the Gilu Ein Sof, a revelation which is infinite? This is not possible but through the garments that are made for them from Torah mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs provide the garment. It's like the sunglasses. It gives them the ability to be able to get all that light. And through this garment, it says, Vayove Moshe b'soicha onon. Moshe comes in the middle of the onon. The onon, that's the garment, that's the cloud that provides the protection from this powerful light from the level of higher than Ishtalshlus. Parshas Chayesora b'dibur hamaschil v'Avram Zokin. The Parshas Mekez b'dibur hamaschil ton Rabban ner Chanukah b'shayim ha'evdim yom rishon madlik shmoina. So over there, Shuki Inyan HaMoshel. Over there it says this is like an example when you give a moshel and you try to figure out an idea by giving an example, a moshel, shaboy val yodo emdim ala seichel. Through that you get the seichel. So that's a garment that we talk about, the mitzvahs, that serves like a moshel in order to be able to get the oil, that great light, which a neshama by itself, because it's a limitation, will not get it. The moshel is the garments that come from Torah mitzvahs. Ein shom barriers. Hashemayim kisi de lekamon. Right now, when we say started the Mamer, we have a Hashemayim kisi. That's a protection. That is the curtain that is in between Atzilus and Bria. Shabov al yodo dafke nimshach ha'oir elyon be'Gan Eden. Dafke, through this comes the supreme light in Gan Eden. In order to Gan Eden to be able to get, there has to go through that level of a curtain. Without the curtain, you can't get it. But just like the moshel, and that will be the Shemayim Chadoshim. We'll explain later on. It's going to be not through a parsha. You're going to get directly. Kitzer. Gan Eden. It's interesting. This Kitzer goes on the whole Mamer, and plus the parenthesis, because the parenthesis ends after this, but it also gives you a Kitzer from the part before the parentheses. Gan Eden is Ziv HaShchina. That's the ray of the divine. But through the Avodah of Lovdus to working the Gan Eden, Mamshich in Oir Began Eden, Matzmusa Yizborech, we bring down in Gan Eden from his blessed Atzm. Uba Hagoah, and the Hagoah, that's the parentheses. Shazeu Inyan Bossi Legani, this is what it says, Bossi, I come to my garden. Hashem coming down to the garden. And that is Mibichinas Ato Kodesh L'Shimcha Kodesh. From Ato Kodesh, which is the Atzmas to the Shimcha, to the name of Ziv to Shim Kodesh. Hamshochas Yichud Zov and Nukva says that the bringing down, the union of Zov and Nukva, Shorchoy Mimoichas Timo, that's rooted in the hidden level of Moyach, which is Eden Ilah, the supreme delight of the Lishomra, is what is Moichin the Zov and Nukva. That is the Moichin, the intellect from the Moichas Timah to Zov and Nukva, and that comes Ayidei Asei Toiv V'Sur Mirah. Further, he had the idea over there, Bayanichehu, that is Naicha, pleasantness. He brings down the various different psukim, Vayonach, V'nochach LaHashem. Then he says, Ve'eich yuchlu l'kabel. How could they receive that? Zehu al yidei ha'levushim. That is through the levushim, through the mitzvahs. V'yanecheyu b'gan Eden. Through the mitzvahs, they can receive. Base. V'ayechoyles hazeh lehamshich ma'atzmus yizborich. Toisus oir b'gan Eden. So, it turns out we learned before two things. First of all, we are mamshich through the mitzvahs additional from Ato Kodesh to Shimcha Kodesh, La'avdol L'Shamra, but then the person himself, also for them to be able to receive it in Gan Eden, they need the Levushim. So that also happens through the Torah mitzvahs. First, they're mamshich a much higher light, and for them to be able to accept it, they have the levushim. This amshich from Atzmusi Yisbarach, additional light in Gan Eden, who davke k'shaneshama melubeshes beguf. That is davke specifically when the soul is resting the body. Shemipnei shaguf machshich umastir, because the body darkens and obscures. Ayidei zem is oirer b'tshuva b'koyach godel b'cheleyatet. That's why he aroused with tshuva with a big force and with a lot of energy b'cheleyatet, with a lot of koyach. Asher al zeh amru razal. And about this, our sages of blessed memory say, b'mokrim shebal tshuva emdim, that the place where bal tshuva stand, even tzaddikim can't stand. Why is that? By tzaddikim, it's measured according to their avodah. By tzaddikim, ha'ava v'yirahem lifi erech ha'soger. Over there, it's according to what they are able to grasp. Because as we say, im ein chochma ein yira. So there's no wisdom, there's no fear. So what brings them their level of yira? Through the level of chochma. The level of yira is measured by how much chokhmah, how much they can understand. Avol habal tshuva, but the bal tshuva, shenimshech loy haruusa delibay. He, to him, extends. How does he get that ruusa deliba, the rotzin halev, the running, the desire of the heart? That's mitzad hamenagid. That comes because of the opposing force. Ulemaylo mekoyach ha'asogim. That is above the power of understanding. By a tzaddik, imein chochma yira, over there it depends on his level of asoke. By the Baal Tshuva, it comes from the opposite. That's why it's higher than the power of understanding. It's like the water that has to pass through the earth. So there's a block on the water, and when the water gets filtered through the earth of the earth, they become more clear, more pure. Then they're called Mayim Chayim, the living waters. Or another example, so you put a dam, you stop them and you don't let them go. But if when they overpower on that prevents them, then they go even with more force. So here, when we're talking about tshuva, we're not talking specifically about doing tshuva for naveres. Tshuva zu It's not specifically for doing Avedis. You're doing Teshuvah, you want to come back because you feel distant, you feel far away. So when we talk about the level of Baal Teshuvah and the higher level of push, we're not talking about just Teshuvah for Avedis. We're talking about if you feel distant, then you have a stronger push. And what does you want the Ratzon Alev? Should be included in his blessed Atzmus. It says but then it says afasisi. Why afasisi? Shebasiya dafke yuchlu lahagia libchinas ruso de libo shalamayla mahasechel. That dafke in asiya, in this world, you can reach a rotzin halev, which is higher than sechel. And through that, to draw down the revelation of the supreme will, the bechinas keser elyon, the level of the supreme keser, which is higher than chokhmah. Ayin shal barichas, look over there in arichas, that's in the Mamer, mimona afer Yaakov. For this reason, the men of the great gathering instituted prayer before davening, before learning. To daven for learning. Davening is the supreme level of tshuva, the higher level of tshuva. Sulam Mutzav Arzo, this is what by Yaakov in the dream, he had the Sulam standing on the ground and the Roshei Magia Hashemayim. And the head reached the Shemayim. The Pirush Sulam, the meaning of the Sulam is Koyi al Hatfila. That refers to the davening, Shi Aliyas HaNefesh Milmato L'maylo. That is the soul going up from below to above. What does it mean? It goes up the way to Shemaima. That's the level of beyond the intellect. That's the level already of B'chol Me'idecha, which is Bechinas Yechida Shebenefesh. That's the level of Yechida of the soul. Shebechinas Oir Makif. That's a level that surrounds the person above, that is more than the soul can tolerate in an urpnimi. It can only come down or makif. That's why we say higher, not b'toichoi, but above, like shemayim. That is the surrounding light, as will be explained later on. So first, you have the tefillah, and you have the level of b'chol ma'idecha, which comes to the kriya shema, which comes before the tefillah. So you have the amidah, then later on, mamshichim baruch ato. You are drawn down. You are blessed. To bring down from above to below, Gilu Ein Sof Mamish, the revelation of the actual Ein Sof. Sheyiyah Bechinas Ato. This the Baruch Ato should be Ato, which is Ato means lenoichach. Noichach means in front of you, to bring it down so that it's begilui. Liyo is to be Havaya Likenu. Havaya should become our God, meaning that the level of the makif should come down to the volcano by mashakosu meinyan Pirush Baruch Ato Hashem B'dibur HaMaschil Matoivu U'B'Torah Oir Soiv Dibur HaMaschil HaShamayim Kisei V'Zehu Shema Yisrael Chulu Pirush Sha'avaya Yiyeh Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Sha'avaya Yiyeh B'chinas Elokeinu Hashem Elokeinu Havaya should be Elokeinu. V'hainu, how we're going to do that? Al Yidei V'ahavta B'chol Nafshecha. When you love Hashem B'chol Nafshecha. The K'moy Shalamayla Yesh Eser Sfiris Shal Yodom Nimshach Hashefa Meidin Sob Ba'elamas. Just like above, there is the 10 spheres through which the flow from the Ein Sof comes to the world that comes through the 10 spheres. Likewise, by the person, there's 10 levels of the soul, the seichel and the midas, the 3 intellect and the 7 midas. And this is the work of the person, כאשר כל בחינת הנפש, all of his levels of the person's soul, tie it to tie it to the intellect and the midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hanikroim eser sfiris, which are called eser sfiris. Tie yourself to the eser sfiris. V'hainu li'skasher al yidei zeh be'orin sof ha'melubash b'hem. And that way you will tie yourself to the infinite light which is dressed in the 10 spheres. Ki tzorich liyis elov v'lo limidoso. Chol korenu elov and not the midas. So in other words, we're not connecting to the kelim of Atzilus, but to the oil which is in the kelim. That's elov lo limidoso. I'm a part of Shar Lamed Beis. Elo. שהיזכשו זו על ידי שמקשר מויכו ושכלוי בחב"ד של הקדוש ברוך הוא. How does that connection, how do you connect yourself to the Esser Sfiris, to the Ein Sof? It comes by tying your mind and your intellect in the Chochmah bin Adas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the Torah. And also Hadbek b'midoso, by cleaving to Hashem's midas. That's the midos in the spheres. This is just a level of b'chol nafshecha. I know as a b'chinas shebenefesh. That's the 10 levels of the soul. But then you have the b'chol moedecho. Achine nimtzo l'mayla oid b'chinas achas shelamayla mesespheres. We're trying to bring down a higher level than the Esespheres. The Esespheres is through your Esespheres. When you're Makasher, you seichel and midos to the Esespheres, you get down your mamshich from there. But you have another one which is higher from the 10 spheres, asher einoi nimno imam klal, which is not counted amongst the 10 spheres. That is also level of Ein Sof. Behind the Bechinas Rotzen Elyon Baruch Hu. That's the level of Rotzen, the level of Keser, the Rotzen of the Supreme Blessed Being. Corresponding to that, Nimtzo Bechinas Zu Benefesh. We also have that level in the Nefesh. This is Bechinas Rotzen Shalamayla Mahasechel, the level of a Rotzen which is beyond Sechel. V'ayim Hashekosu. בדיבור המסחיל, עניין קריאה שמע, שזהו עניין יחידה שבנפש. So you have that level of yichid, that's the level of chomedecha. Liyois, so that you become in the level of mili bashamayim, kolosh eri. That's higher than the seichel, a connection of rotzit, beyond seichel. So inyan b'chol moedecha. This is the idea of b'chol moedecha. V'hainu, and that is shebechinas b'chol nafshecho. So what is it? The level of b'chol nafshecho. That's the level of bechinas naran. That's the level of nefesh ruach neshama shem seichel umidas, which is seichel umidas. But then you have a bechinas b'chol meidecha. The level of b'chol meidecha is bechinas rotzin, and now that's the level of rotzin. שהוא מבחינת יחידה וחיה, from the יחידה וחיה, שהם מקיפים על השכל והמידס, they surround the שכל והמידס ולמעלה מהסוגה, above הסוגה. והזויכל הזה, הוא מבחינת הבעל תשובה. Who gets the level of B'chol Meidecha? Who gets to be mamshich the level of Rot, to get to the level of Rotzen? Who gets to be mamshich the Rotzen Elyon, which is higher than Ishtalshalus? That's the Baal Shuva. Who commissions barley il mimoshel hamayim, as we explained before, explained earlier, from the example of the water kshemakfinai. So when you stop them, and then you get with more force, you get that Rotzen 11 a higher level. V'ayim hashikosim ezeh b'pashas Tiso and Svev Divra Maschil, Smoilo Tachs Leroy Shichul. Okay.